Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Aaron Diaz, and you're listening to episode number 10 of Live the Good Life from the podcast studios of Aaron's Wine Chronicles corporate headquarters in Richland, Washington. Today, my brother Adam and I will be reviewing 4 different cigars and pairing these cigars with 4 different drinks. We're going to show you how we prep our cigars before we smoke, and we hope you're going to enjoy this episode as we provide our insights on these award-winning cigars and delicious libations. So this episode is an experiment for us. We're going to be recording the bulk of the podcast outside of the studio on my back patio where we typically smoke. So we're going to be taking the GoPros out. They have microphones embedded in them, so we won't be using the studio mics. I'm hoping that the fidelity of the audio feed is going to be good enough so that we can pass this off as a high-quality podcast. Anyway, hopefully you'll appreciate the information and perspectives that we share, and hope you stay tuned. We'll be right back to start the show. Okay, so we have an assortment of different tools here that we typically use to prepare the cigar before you smoke it, okay? And so some of these help to improve the draw so that you don't have to really suck hard on the cigar to get, to get it to bring out the flavors and to get a real nice smoke on it. And then some of these others are to actually configure the end of the cigar. The cigars have different ends to them. This guy right here has more of a, what would be considered kind of like a box cut. And then these other two have more what's considered to be like a torpedo cut. And so they're tapered at the end into points. And so there are different tools that we use to prepare these to smoke. We have some clips here where you put the cigar in the hole and simply snip it, and then we have other versions of that where you can butt the cigar up against this little brace here, and then you snip it that way so that you have kind of a linear slice on the end of the cigar. It all depends on your personal preference and all of that. Then of course we've got hole punches, and we typically, the way my brother and I do this is when we're looking at cigars that have these box ends, we'll basically draw poker them with this metal rod and put basically a hole all the way through it so that you get more air intake and you get a nicer burn. And then right around the center of that, where that hole is from the draw poker, we'll put this hole punch and we'll punch a hole in it. And instead of biting it off like you see in the Western movies. So anyhow, that's kind of what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and prepare these 4 cigars. My brother is on his way over, and just in a little bit after I'm done preparing these, we're going to take them outside. We're going to pour some libations, and we're going to smoke some of each of these and give you our thoughts on the cigars themselves and then also on the pairing that we're going to do. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of these torpedoes, just like this, and I'm going to use this snip here that I really like. I got this years ago. So I'm going to take this snip and I'm going to put it around the edge. Yeah, you don't want to go too far and end up, clipping it right here so that you have almost the entire cigar. You don't want to go too small either. You want to be able to have enough clipped so that the draw is good on it. And that's typically what I like to do. So we do something like that, where we've snipped off that end. So that guy, set him aside for now. The same thing with this guy. Same kind of a torpedo body to it. So I'll take him and snip. Again, just about the same size of snip. You got that right there. So these 2 guys need to be draw pokered. And then these guys, what I'll typically do is we'll put them in and we'll draw poker them first. So on the end of this little table thing here, this table, we've got some holes here. And so depending on the size of the cigar, the ring gauge, you can put this metal rod in any of those holes and draw it. I like to center it in such a way that the hole is right in the middle of the cigar. So you just kind of take it like this, and you just slowly push and twist the rod all the way through the cigar. until it pushes up against the back end here. And I just kind of let it sit there for a few minutes. And I'll go and make my drink and go set up outside, and then I'll come back and get the cigar. For the purposes of today's smoke, I'm going to go ahead and withdraw the rod. Boom. Now you can see there's a little hole there, right kind of in the center of the cigar. So I'll take a hole punch and I'll center it around that. And then I will slowly just kind of punch this thing in like this. So now it's gone all the way in, and then boom. Now you can see that there's a nice punched hole that'll help you be able to draw the cigar nicely when you're smoking it. And you don't have to worry about biting it off and then having chunks of tobacco in your mouth, or tearing the end of it to the point where you know it starts to unravel. Same thing with this guy. Now, typically, this is a Padron, 1926 Padron, and these are constructed a little bit more delicately than the Liga Privada that we're going to be smoking. That's more of a tank of a cigar. It's really nice. This one is beautiful as well, but it's more delicate on the end. So I'm not going to draw this. I will, most of the time I will draw this, but I'll be very gentle. I'm not going to draw this at all. I'm just going to use a smaller hole punch, similar to this guy, a little bit different size, smaller diameter, and I'm going to put it right here on the end, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw it. I'm going to punch it, punch this thing here, be kind of careful, and then boom, there you go. A nice punched hole, nothing's damaged, and it's good to go. So then you just push that guy out, and you've got all your stuff that you need to clean up. And now I take these two torpedoes that I had, and I have an end there that I would like to go ahead and punch all the way through. Not punch, again, draw poker it. So I'll put it into this draw poker. Oop, got it backwards. Put it into the draw poker like this, and I'll get this situated so that it's right in the middle. You see that rod is right in the middle of where I clipped it, and I'm just gonna slowly push this guy through and draw it all the way through. Then boom, I'm done with it. Pull it out, and that one's good to go. Then I'll do the other one. This is a Casa Fernandez Aganorsa leaf, another beautiful cigar. And I will line it up, and we'll do it. All right. Now we're done. All four of the cigars have been properly prepped to smoke, and we're ready to take these guys outside. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, so we are about to embark on this experiment for episode number 10 of Live the Good Life. We are now outside the studio. I'm joined by my brother Adam, the co-host, and we're going to go ahead and start this off. Our cigars have all been prepared. We have our drinks in front of us. I want to turn it over to Adam, and he's going to go ahead and light up while I'm lighting up mine.
Yeah, so I'll be starting with Aging Room Cuatro, and it's, I believe, a Nicaraguan wrap on it. Not exactly sure what the filler is. Anyway, this is a good high-ranked cigar. I've had it before, and I'll be drinking with it Glenfiddich 18, single malt, a fine Scotch. I've had it before as well, and I like to match light, stick light my when the weather permits and it's not super windy. And I like to toast the bottom and kind of move it around. Normally I remove the wrapper around it, but I'll leave it on right now for people that are tuning in. Once I get it lit, I might jump to a lighter, but I like to toast it first. It helps with the taste early on. You're not overly burning it right away, and sometimes that can get into the taste right off the get-go. I like to toast it slowly, or even if you have one of the old lighters, you know, that don't shoot out a lot of power, those can be just like a match in a lot of ways. Then like Winston Churchill, we're on.
Now, I'm a little bit different. I don't really gravitate to the match lighting like my brother does. I like to use my old handy dandy meth lighter. I'm just joking about that, but I like the full-blown torch lighters because in the wind and all of that, you don't have to worry about anything. I am smoking a Casa Fernandez Aganorsa leaf cigar. It also is a torpedo like the one that Adam just lit up, and it is a Mexican-made cigar. Really beautiful. There are two particular brands of the Aganorsa leaf cigar that Casa Fernandez fabricates down in Mexico, and I like them both. One is a black label, one is a red label. Today I'm smoking the black label, so I just typically will take my torch and do the same kind of thing. I will light the bottom of the cigar and just kind of get it hot, and then I'll start drawing on the cigar. Now again, we just showed you just a few moments earlier that, you know, how we prepared the cigars. So the cigars have been draw pokered. We've put that channel through the cigar to help airflow so that it burns a little bit more uniformly and a little bit hotter. It'll tend to be a little bit hotter, but also the draw on the cigar will be a little easier. If you don't draw poker it, there'll be times when you get a cigar that's really packed. You know, it's packed really thick, and you have to suck on it like you're sucking the fur off a tennis ball to get anything out of it, right?
So that draw, yeah, it's gonna kind of just loosen it up in there. Yeah, there's a couple of different schools of thought on it. Some people like to go all the way through, and some don't. Some people like to go a little ways through when you draw it. What he's saying about the burn is early on, if you light it properly, you're taking a look at the burn around there and how evenly it is. It's nice. Sometimes you'll see it kind of canoeing, kind of come down, and you have to kind of light the other side and play with it, or sometimes people just let it go and see where it goes. I usually try to even it out when I can, but a lot of good cigars, when they're put together right, you'll see the burn evenly, but it's also imperative that you kind of do a good even leveled toasting on it right off the get-go, whether you're using a lighter or matches.
Yeah. I did forget to mention that I told you about the cigar I'm smoking. Adam's got the Glenfiddich 18-year single malt, and I have a Glenmorangie. It's also a single malt from the Highlands. It's extremely rare, 18-year. This is another really good high-end scotch that my brother and I really enjoy. We've been having it for a number of years now. It's one of our favorites. This scotch is kind of one of those scotches I would call a scotch for non-scotch drinkers. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean,
in fact, I think I fell in love with that one right off the get-go, which is, you know, it wasn't like I worked my way through shitty scotch. I started with the best stuff, and I kind of wanted to stay there. And so that kind of became my
standard.
Yeah, so if someone was offering me scotch, a lot of it didn't measure up to some of the stuff I had already been drinking. So I was like, but I do like to have a scotch now and then, and I don't drink mine neat. I like ice with it on the rocks.
Yeah. I'm exactly like my brother. We've got these big round ice balls that we've got one of those round ball makers there, and it takes a while for it to actually break down all the way, so it has kind of a much more even pace to the watering down of the scotch, and I like that too. So it keeps it cold, but it doesn't just melt really quickly.
Yeah, so, you know, flavors coming off of this is not going to be I'd want to say this is not going to be a mild cigar for someone that's just starting out, but I think it's a medium or above medium slightly. You know, you're going to get some kind of dark chocolate, some woodiness to it, some other, it's not super spicy or anything like that. You're not going to get a lot of spice off it. The ranking on it, I believe, was a 96 or 97 and Cigar Aficionado. Yep. It's a high ranked cigar. I can see why. And as far as those rankings in Cigar Aficionado, a lot of times I think of all the places that rank cigars, it's pretty spot on. But, you know, they'll be pretty evenly, they're unbiased in the sense that there's some people that like spicy cigars that might like those rankings, and you'll see some high ranks. So it's important to look at the notes when you're looking at a cigar or you're reading up on it, because you may not be into certain flavor, taste of the cigar.
And the body
It may not
important too.
Yeah, it may not be for you, and yet it's a high rank. So you kind of got to balance. I have a friend that just loves spicy cigars, peppery stuff off it, whatever. And so I like to keep some on store for him, but not my cup of tea.
These cigars, Adam alluded to this just a little bit ago. He said that his cigar is about a medium to medium full in body. There's a scale that some people might not be familiar with, and that scale goes from very light-bodied smoke to a very full-bodied smoke, very much like wine, where you have a very light-bodied wine. In the reds, that might be a Pinot Noir, or it might be a Beaujolais, or a Gamay, Beaujolais, something like that. That's very light but red. And then you get to the very full-bodied wines, like the big Cabernet Sauvignons. Well, it's the same thing with cigars. You get these big, bold, full of flavor, and they're going to slap you in the face. And if you're not the type of cigar smoker that's been smoking a while and acclimated to that, it's like the first time you've had scotch. The very first time you drank scotch, or you drank a bourbon or a whiskey with nothing in it, and just on the rocks or just neat. That's the experience that you're going to get when you light up a really full-bodied, flavorful cigar. So there are all kinds of degradations of cigars across that spectrum. The one that I'm smoking here, this Aganorsa, it's at least a medium. I think it's a medium to full as well. And Adam mentioned that the burn is pretty uniform. On this one, it's fairly uniform too. I'm getting a little bit of an overburn on one side of it, but that can be monitored when you're putting your cigar down in between smoking. You want to put the side that hasn't burned as quickly down, because that'll tend to burn a little more quickly when it's in the ashtray. And then sometimes, periodically, what happens is if it continues to burn a little bit non-uniformly, and you start getting almost like the look of a canoe, you can actually
starting to do that a little bit here, but
you can take the lighter and you can compensate for it. You burn the areas that aren't burning quickly enough, and you can kind of even it out a little bit. And that's kind of what we do periodically.
So what I'm doing,
to maintain that.
Yeah, I'm doing that exactly right. I'm gonna blow on it a little bit. That'll turn up a little red. And it kind of catches up a little bit there. And then you just go back to it.
For those of you who are just on the audio podcast, you're not able to visually see us going through this and taking you through these steps. But hopefully you're still getting something out of this, because the two different cigars that we're smoking are fairly highly ranked. Now this one, the Aganorsa, is not as highly ranked as the
aging room
that Adam has. I think it was the last time I saw a ranking in Cigar Aficionado, I think it was in the low 90s, like 93, yeah. 94 max. It might have been a 93. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not as good, or just like wines. You can get highly ranked wines that don't really drink as well as wines that aren't rated so high. So it all depends on your own palate.
Yeah, and then money's another thing. Like the aging room they're good. It's an affordable good smoke, but it's going to be a little above average in cost. A lot of times, if you go to a cigar shop, you might end up paying maybe $16 to $18 per stick, and it depends if you're going to get some in bulk. They might cut you a deal. If you order them online, it's going to be a better price. So they're not going to be up as high as Padrones, but it's something to keep in mind. It's going real well with this scotch that I'm drinking, the Glenfiddich, and I'll say when I'm drinking the Glenfiddich, I'm getting some earthy, real mild earthy kind of flavors on it, with some caramel, little, I want to say like dark chocolate off it.
On this cigar, the flavors I'm getting are kind of a deep coffee and maybe some leather. There's some leather and coffee on this one. It doesn't have a lot of sweetness to it, but it's not bitter. It's more of I think it's tending to be more of a medium full in strength. Really like it though, because there's no bitterness to it, and it gives you this deep tobacco, leather, coffee flavor that I really enjoy.
And while you can't be quick to judge a cigar right off the get-go, as you're smoking it, some you're not going to get right in the flavor right away. Real good cigars, sometimes you do. just right off the get-go, it's just great. It doesn't take long from the initial toasting and getting it started. But, you start getting about into it here like this, at this portion, that you're really getting into the flavors there. And the taste of the cigar is resonating with you. Yeah.
The first inch is really, just let it burn a little bit and get acclimated to it. And then after that first 3/4 of an inch or inch, then you can start really making your tasting notes, I think.
Yeah.
You're right. If you light it up and you go too quickly, you can be misinformed.
And you can be puffing on the cigar. Like I'm kind of moving a little fast on this one. I like to keep the head on it if I can. It kind of helps with the flavor, and it also stands to reason it's not light tobacco ash. It's just going to fly everywhere. Yeah. That's kind of another good sign of how it's
higher
burning.
End cigar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your better higher end cigars are going to be able to have an ash that will stay rather solid. And you get some that are cheaper made, and they're going to just flake all over the place, and a little bit of a breeze comes up and they're blowing in your face. These probably won't be doing that. These are Good Life cigars.
So
Good Life cigars.
I'm about getting ready to maybe move on to the next one. It's hard for me to do because I'm really enjoying the cigar. It's a good cigar. I know there's plenty more of them.
Well, before you do that, though, let's talk a little bit about the pairing with the Scotch.
Well,
because once we go to the other cigars, we're going to put the Scotch aside, and we're going to bring out some ports. Yeah.
So, what I was going to say on this, and it pairs just fine with the Scotch. Sometimes there's some sweeter cigars, and I like kind of some of this. I think it's there's a few sweet. There's some Crazy Alice out there, and what is it called? Not Deadwood or something like that. There's a lot coming out, and then
Drew Estates
has loads of them, and there are some good that right off the get go. You're gonna get like chocolatey on it, maybe some real sweet caramels, vanilla, things like that. When I'm doing something sweet like that, I can offset that really easily with like a whiskey or something like that. Even sometimes beer. But Scotch plays well with most of them.
Especially if you got the more full cigars, Scotch will be a nice way to tame it.
But I don't like doing my sweeter cigars with ports. With ports,
like and like, right?
Yeah.
You want kind of something to complement.
Yeah.
Kind of be like a magnet, right? Kind of
exactly. And like lemonade, for example. The other day, I wasn't having a drink with alcohol in it. I just had lemonade.
What?
And
no alcohol.
Yeah. And so I ended up grabbing a lemonade and going out, and I grabbed a cigar, and the cigar I took out there was a sun-grown Rocky Patel, which it just went real well with that. But so sometimes you want something sweet with it. It just kind of helps offset and balances out that flavor for you.
So I've got a Mexican cigar here. Adam has a Nicaraguan cigar over there, and then we have a couple of other cigars that we're going to open up here in just a sec. I wanted to talk briefly about the Glenmorangie, the 18-year extremely rare Scotch that I'm drinking. This one is very smooth, but it's also sweet. It's got notes of like honey and almost like a little bit of orange, but it's not. It's the orange part of it is tamed. It's subdued. It's kind of a subtle orange fruit flavor, but the honey overrides that. And it doesn't have any peat. These scotches that we're drinking aren't peaty scotches that are really bold and can kind of be tough to swallow if you don't like those types of scotches. So we gravitate more towards these types of scotches, and the Glenmorangie is really enjoyable. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to take Adam's lead here, and we're going to take just a second. We're going to prepare our next round of cigars and bring out the other two ports that we're going to complement with those cigars, and we'll start up again in just a few moments. We'll be right back. Okay, well, we're back, and we have restocked with new ammunition. We've got two new cigars that we're smoking. Just a few moments ago, we finished up the previous cigar and the drinks, the scotches that we had just got done talking about. Now we're on to a new horizon. We both have two different port-style wines. One is a Washington State wine, and one is an Oregon State wine. And so I'm going to have my brother go ahead and start out like we did previously, and he's going to start out with his pairing, and then I'll talk about my pairing.
Okay, so I wasn't familiar with this wine. My brother brought me this port here to try, and it's a Beneficio Remy wine, and it's from Oregon. It's showing a 10-year aged, and this is a 2012.
I think it's Barbera. I think the Barbera is the actual grape it's from.
Yeah, and I'll be smoking the Drew Estates Liga Privado number 9, which I'll tell you what, this when you just smell it,
One of our favorites.
yeah, one of our favorites. You just get a good sweet smell off it right off the get-go, and this one is just it feels like it's pretty new.
That's a beast of a cigar.
Yeah, and it's a good size. I don't know. This is a Toro or a little bigger.
No,
Churchill?
I think it's
Anyway, it's bigger than a Toro.
no,
so
it's the name of the guy in World War II.
Churchill. Yeah,
It's a
that's what I
Churchill.
said.
That's what it is.
So
It's
yeah,
Churchill.
but it's a good cigar. And in drinking this, I've already taken a taste of this. This Remy is wow, that's different. So that port style.
It was the most unique wine of port style wines that I've ever had.
Yeah.
And it was because my brother actually told me to go down to Oregon and do some wine tasting because he had been down there a month or two before
like
me.
just a little prior.
And we happened to stop in at this place towards closing time, and they gave us tastes of about, I want to say 13, 14 different wines, and they brought this last, and I couldn't stop drinking it. It was so unique. So,
yeah, we visited our in-laws down there, and a lot of great wines, and they were great. And they live down there. Bobby and Melissa and Hector and the batch down there in Oregon there, and they took us wine tasting.
It's in the Willamette Valley.
all around the Willamette Valley
Willamette
there,
Valley,
yeah.
yeah.
But there are so many places down there. But great, just a great getaway. But to try some of these wines, this comes off nutty. A couple of different nuts.
Usually they come in pairs.
It
right?
has a without the hair. No, but there's some blended nut flavors going on in there, and then it ends with like a jammy tartness of some fruit, and I couldn't put my finger on it.
Is it raspberry or?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, raspberry.
Okay, that would be a good assessment. Raspberry would be a good assessment.
Baked sweet raspberry.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly, because it's that tart jamminess.
That's what I
But it's
thought,
not like sweet like a strawberry or something
Right.
like that. So anyway, I'm gonna do what I do. I'm gonna toast this baby up.
So
Evidently, there's a shortage of matches
no, I've
I'm
got
getting
more in the back. Hey, don't let them try. We live the good life here. There's no shortage of matches. No shortage of nothing.
Well, in this wind,
Yeah, it's a little hard. While my brother's getting his lit, I will talk briefly a little bit about what I got. I've got a 1926 series
there we go.
Padron, and it is a beautiful. It happens to be my favorite cigar, so I decided to take it upon myself to take this cigar today when we're doing our reviews. This is just a beautiful cigar. It's got the easiest draw. You don't even have to. Earlier, when I showed that we were doing the draw pokering, I didn't draw poker this because you don't have to. The way it's constructed, it's got such an easy draw on it without draw pokering it that I don't want to risk popping the wrapper or cracking it a little bit. Rather not do that. So all I did was punch it. We went through that already, and it's smoking beautifully. Again, I'm not making any judgment on it. That's only about maybe half an inch right there that I've smoked it, so I'm going to continue to enjoy this. But it's a very, very nice cigar. I consider this a medium to full-bodied cigar. It's not all the way to the full spectrum for me, but it doesn't overwhelm my palate with spice or bitterness or anything like that. This guy gives me like cocoa, sweet cocoa powder, some coffee notes, but some wood and just some beautiful mild flavors that come across your palate that that are all very complimentary. You can smoke this all day long. This is, again, probably my favorite cigar of the 300, 400, 500 different cigars that I've smoked in my life. This guy here.
Yeah, and what I love about this Liga, I mean, there's a lot of sites where these suckers are sold out or on back order. Same with the Padrones. Sometimes during certain times of the year when you're making your orders, it's hard to grab them, or you're waiting a little bit, or you're shopping around them. It's great to have Daniel. You've had a podcast with Daniel.
Episode 5.
Cigar Savvy, which is in Tri-Cities here right up the street. He's always a great go-to to grab a few. I like to sometimes show up there and grab some Ligas and Padrones, just to kind of have a few on stock.
Actually, I think I actually got this Padron from Daniel's store, Cigar Savvy, down on Gage Boulevard in Kennewick. I mean, and these aren't cheap, if you have company and stuff, just to throw one of these at someone that's not really appreciative of cigars and stuff, you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of watching your costs too. If you'll see some people put them out and they're halfway through or more than halfway through,
they stop smoking.
Yeah,
put them out.
And some of these good ones, you want people to appreciate them and at least have developed the taste to appreciate them. And so I keep a wide variety. And some that are just more mild, that for the beginning smoker, that they're going to enjoy it. And if they put it out, there's no harm, no foul. Maybe it's $4.
Right.
Maybe it's $5, a stick.
He brings up a good point. So the one I'm smoking is in the high 20s per stick. So, when you're buying a 20 pack or a 25 pack of these, you're well over $400.
And this is close too.
And that one is not quite
this
as
is right about
close.
20.
It's up there.
Right about 20, a little over.
21.
Yeah.
Adam makes a good point. And it's kind of the same way with wines. Like, if you're going to have a group of people over, and not many of them really enjoy wine, but they'll drink it, and they haven't had much experience, we're not going to crack open a $300 bottle of Cab from wherever and open that up. We're going to have some wines that are much more approachable, that are cheaper, that are maybe a little sweeter, not so tannic, and we'll serve those, because they'll get just the same experience out of it, and be able to appreciate that for a lot less cost. But these are truly, these two cigars are truly Live the Good Life cigars on the higher end of the spectrum, both cost and quality, I think.
And I think it's fair to say my brother picked out a very good pairing here. So a shout out to Brendan Monahan, my attorney in the Yakima area.
He's the one in the family who needs an attorney quite often.
Yeah, so he appreciates wines and cigar. I think he would really love this combination. And
hard to tell.
So
Brendan's kind of an eclectic guy.
if it's not Irish whiskey, it's not Irish whiskey with him.
No. It's not proper number 12.
But yeah, so the pairing with it is really good. Man, hats off. It really it's matching quite well. And yeah, I'm getting, like I said, some cocoa off of this cigar, but it's not overwhelming, and there's some woodiness to it, but some subtle sweetness. It's not overly sweet, and that's what I like about this. It balances that woody flavor. Sometimes you'll get some real woody flavor, like in the box, like from a humidor. Sometimes you'll get that woodiness off of
Spanish cedar.
Yeah, cedar.
Yeah, Spanish cedar.
Off of how it's stored, and sometimes that in itself can be very good.
Yeah.
It tastes great, but sometimes that can also overwhelm and overshadow some of the flavors intended by the cigar maker.
I keep bringing up the analogy of wine to everything that we're talking about, but there's a lot of analogies, because the same thing with wine. Sometimes you can get wines where the flavors of the barrel that was used to age it overwhelm the flavors of the wine, and you get a lot of that, and that can be enjoyable, and sometimes it can be too overwhelming. The same thing with what Adam was talking about with the cigar flavors. The actual port style wine that I'm drinking, shout out to our friends Greg and Shay Frechette on Red Mountain.
Good people, yes.
Yep, we are both club members out there at the Frechette Winery, located on Red Mountain in Benton City. And one of the things that Greg has done by accident was make a really, really good port style wine.
Yeah.
This is a 2016 Zinfandel port style wine from Red Mountain. I think what happened, what the story was, and I may be a little bit off on this story because I do drink a lot, is that he ended up getting a bunch of Zinfandel grapes at a point where he wasn't really sure what to do with them, and he decided, I'm just going to go ahead and try to do this port style wine. He ended up making it, and it was a huge hit. It was a huge hit among a lot of his club members and other people who just came in, and it was the first time I think he had done a port style wine, and we fell in love with it. We, between my brothers, both, my brother Adam, the co-host, and my other brother Jason, who you haven't met, hopefully you will on a subsequent podcast. We've purchased a number of cases of this wine until it sold out. It's no longer available to the average human.
I think it's done.
I think it is.
Because there was the last of it, I think, sometime last year, maybe in the last 8 months.
Last summer or fall. I think
maybe the last 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
And it was a shame because we'd show up there like, hey, you got any more of these? And we were grabbing 2 or 3 bottles and sitting on them.
You just walk in, boom, 2, 3
You go
bottles.
through those. It's perfect size for 2 guys, or sometimes if you have 3 guys, just to have that glass that's going to complement. God, that was And I don't know if he's slated to do another port style like that, but he really needs to be.
We need to talk.
He needs to be pushed to do it. So
so the flavors on this is it's a red Zinfandel based, but it's nice. It's not overly viscous. Some port style wines can be real viscous and thick.
What's a viscous? What is
viscosity?
This word?
Viscosity.
Ah, the viscosity. Yes,
like a heavy oil.
Yes, like
versus a very light
off of the side of the glass.
Right.
The viscosity.
So the viscosity of that. If you swirl this a little bit, you can kind of see the legs on it. It does have body to it, but it's not overwhelmingly viscous and thick like some can be. And the color's beautiful on it. The aromatics are really nice on this. You get nice sweet red berries on this, even dark fruit on this. But being that it's a Zin, you're going to get a little bit of spice, subtle spice on it too. Get a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of sweet tobacco on this, and it's a perfect complement to this outstanding 1926 Padron, which is highly ranked. This is also 97 ranked in Cigar Aficionado.
Yeah, one of the highest.
And Padron, they have a whole number of cigars that are in the 90s.
Yeah.
Talking from 92, 91, 92, all the way up to 96, 7, maybe even 8. They've probably even had higher ones that have been ranked back,
There's anniversary, 1964 anniversary. There's some, and they're just great. I mean, even some of the low 90s ones smoke so great.
Yeah.
It's like their shitty cigars are still high class.
Yeah,
great.
kind of like some wineries have table wines that they'll put out. These are our low-end wines.
Yeah,
and
you're like, wow.
They knock some wines, higher-end wines from other wineries out of the box. So, anyway, Greg, Shay, you guys did a great job on this. I hope that you guys actually make another one sometime in the future, or maybe even try a dessert wine.
That's a good idea.
We should talk maybe on the podcast at some time in the future.
Yeah. Sounds
Again,
good.
It's the 2016 Zinfandel from Red Mountain, Frechette Winery, Benton City.
And Remy wine right here, 2012. Beautiful.
Patio.
Beautiful.
Barbera based.
Yeah, Barbera based.
So I've been wanting to share that wine with you, Adam, for a while since I got back, and I think I told you about it, and it kind of fell on the side.
Yeah.
Because we don't usually plan. I mean, sometimes I'll go over to my brother's house. We'll be hanging out of the blue. Hey, you want to smoke a cigar? Yeah. Hey, go to my cellar, grab something. So we'll grab whatever's there. I typically have a much larger selection of these types of wines because I purposefully look for them when I go wine tasting, and I've got probably 70 to 100, well, not maybe 100, but 70 to 80 different dessert and port style wines that we can pick.
But let's be clear for the record, he doesn't let me go and just pick a bottle of wine at his place. I do it mine, because
he's got 3 wines in his cellar.
I got more than 3, but that's not the point. The point is, he doesn't reciprocate, so he needs to allow me to help myself to his. Are you trying to mute me?
No, that's the umbrella. That's the awning.
Anyway, no. So good pairing. I like that.
That's a good pairing.
And so hopefully this episode was kind of enlightening, and especially to people that are just getting into the smoking. Surprisingly, there's a lot of people that have been smoking cigars a long time that don't think to mix them with ports, that don't think to mix them with late harvest Riesling. They might just have their thing, their drink with it. But hey, open up the door, try a few things.
That's a good point. So Adam alluded to the fact that we interviewed Daniel Martinez, who is the owner and proprietor of Cigar Savvy here in Kennewick. And in that interview, if you guys go back and you watch that interview, I asked Daniel what he pairs with his cigars. And I asked him if he's ever had a port with his cigars, and I think he said, I've never actually tried a port. And this guy has smoked more cigars in his life than Adam and I combined by a factor of 10.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what he does. That's his job. He's a tobacconist, and he sells cigars, and he's got to smoke them to understand the different flavors and all of that.
Oh, he's been to the Vegas shows.
And he's been to some of the Vegas shows.
Which is something we want to do.
And he's gone to other places too, venues like that.
Which might be on a following podcast, us in Vegas. That's yet to come.
But
that's yet to come.
Anyway, what I'm saying is, for a guy like that, as astute of a cigar smoker as he is, he's never had a port-style wine with a cigar, at least not as of a couple of months ago. We need to get him back over here, and we need to do something similar, and maybe that's another podcast, because there's a lot to learn about cigars. We have just kind of hit the tip of the iceberg. So we've touched on how to prepare a cigar. We've touched on how to pair cigars with some different libations, and then we've also touched on a variety of types of cigars that you can smoke. The 4 that we talked about was the aging room from Nicaragua. We talked about the Aganorsa leaf, the Casa Fernandez Aganorsa leaf from Mexico. Those were both torpedo style cigars, a little bit smaller, but both very high quality. And then we went to some of the bigger beasts. We went to the Liga Privada number 9, which is a Drew Estates, right? That's a Drew Estates cigar. Now, what tobacco? Where do they source their tobacco on that? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Does it say Nicaragua on it, or does it say? We'd have to Google that.
Yeah, I'd probably have to check that.
I'm not sure if it's Dominican Republic or if it's Nicaragua or where the actual leaf comes from, but it's a beautiful cigar. And then, of course, there's the Padron cigar. 1926.
Yeah.
The 4 cigars that we've provided today are definitely high-end, live the good life type cigars that we highly recommend for those who really do want to embrace the cigar life. But I hope you guys walk away with some insights into how to enjoy a cigar and how to prep a cigar, and maybe it'll be new horizons for you.
And thank you for tuning in. And it's our job here to finish what we started.
That's right. Cheers.
Until we meet again.
Until next time.
Cheers, brother.
Well, we're back, and I'd like to thank you all again for joining us on Live the Good Life. That's all we have for today's episode. Again, for more of Living the Good Life, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Aaron's Wine Chronicles, or online at aaronswinechronicles.com. And for a video podcast version of this episode, visit my YouTube channel at the @ Aaron's Wine Chronicles 6666. Really hope you enjoyed the show, and thank you all for listening. And remember, wherever you go, whenever you can, always live the good life. Until next time.